Greetings, one and all. How are you today? My name is Jason Davis, and this is Empower Volusia Common Sense, and we're coming to you, from a hidden location somewhere in the upper highlands of West Volusia County. And we're guarded by 2 rabid Pomeranians and 1 crazy cat here in the old iron bunker. That's right. Got to get the old iron bunker in there. You can hear us on YouTube, iTunes, we're on iCloud, we're Twittered, we're everywhere you want to be. And if you are listening to this, you might be listening to us on www.jasondavispodcast.com, and you can drop me a line at jasondavispodcast@gmail.com. So you can get a hold of us. You can tell me what you want to hear about. And I got one story coming up. I think we'll try to knock it out of here tomorrow. We'll see what we can do. But anyways, so here we go, folks. Wow, I'm here to tell you. This is it's been interesting for the past day or two here. Today is this is recorded here on the 14th of November. Do you know what yesterday was? November 13th. And it was another exciting episode of the continuing saga of As the Stomach Turns. And in today's episode, or yesterday's episode, Adam Shifty Shift, the pathological liar that is the chairman of the Intelligence Committee in the United States House of Representatives, who is in charge of the impeachment inquiry. Well, he read his 15-minute dissertation about how this is the best thing that the United States Congress can do for our nation. Yes, we must impeach the president. It's imperative to this country. It's imperative to the Constitution. It's imperative. And I still have one question. What is up with the eyes of that guy? Wow. I mean, he looks like he is like wild crazy. But then, anyways, Mr. Devin Nunes, the senior ranking Republican on the Intelligence Committee, it's his turn, and he starts to talk. And basically what he says is, what the hell are you talking about? See, Mr. Nunez carried on for a good, I think it was about 30 minutes. I really wasn't watching the time, but it was a long, long dissertation plus, and that was his opening statement in the inquiry. Part of the things that he pointed out was that this is a phone call we're talking about. That's it. That's all they're here to talk about is a phone call. And I'm pretty much the only evidence that they have is the transcript of this phone call from the President of the United States to the President of the Ukraine. Another thing he had to say was that the chairman knows who the whistleblower is. We all know this. But Adam Schiff, he just totally denies this fact. Even though he stated he did know who it was a few weeks ago, and he even let it slip in a propaganda release. It was he made one of his Intelligence Committee leaks from down in the bowels of the Congress and the secret chambers, the Star Chamber, whatever you want to call it today. And he actually lets information slip and communications slip, and he actually let it slip about this guy named Eric. Yeah, we know who he is. Everybody knows who he is, and I'll say his name is Eric. And that's his first name. We'll just leave it at Eric. We might bring out the last of it later, but from everything that I have read from the House Committee, House Intel that's on the line, and everything that everybody's saying is this Eric guy, he is the whistleblower.
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
Now enter these star witnesses. You always open up with your star witnesses. That's what you're supposed to do when you do a case of some sort. So Mr. Kent and Mr. Taylor, 2 individuals that had, well, let's be realistic. They had 3rd or 4th or 5th or 8th or 10th hand knowledge of this phone call. When the phone call happened, both of them admitted they didn't know anything about it for quite some time. But these were the first 2 witnesses called by the chairman, Adam Schiff, for the impeachment inquiry The star witnesses for the Democrats. Yay. Yes, we got it. We're going to have some sort of bombshell. Yeah, that's it. That's what they're thinking. And what did they have to say about the president and his attempted coercion, quid pro quo, whatever you want to call it today? Well, they rambled on. Mr. Kent is the senior department official in charge of the Ukraine. I heard him for about as long as I could, which is about 10 minutes. And then the former ambassador, Mr. Taylor, who is kind of sitting in as the ambassador now, I guess. He spoke for quite a long time, though, boring the heck out of the audience on television. You could hear the televisions turning off. I mean, he bored the audience to absolute death. To the point, let me be honest, this is where I think I said I have to go polish my boots. Now, I'm glad I did polish my boots, and I put a high gloss shine on them reminiscent of my military days, because, well, the BS was getting awful thick coming out of the speakers of my surround sound system in the old iron bunker here. One thing that you could take away from this whole episode today was that they have no idea what was going on, nor was there any new bombshell information from the now infamous phone call from the President of the United States to the President of the Ukraine. These two star witnesses had nothing but third-hand knowledge at best. Let me say that again. Well, let's see. Everybody's been talking about the phone call game. You know, that's the phone call game where you actually whisper a secret into somebody's ear, and then they go to the next person and whisper it in, and to the next person, and to the next person. And as it goes along, the original information migrates and changes and metamorphoses into something that's absolutely undiscernible. But the Democratic legislators spoke on several occasions about Mr. Hunter Biden and Joe Biden during Mr. Biden's vice presidency, and whether or not there was a conflict in the relationship with Hunter Biden sitting on Burisma's board. And we all know who Burisma is. That's the energy company over in the Ukraine. A very corrupt company, by the way. And, of course, all the Democrats agreed there was no conflict of interest. There was no quid pro quo Joe statements, even though they stated that he was on a video camera about holding $1.6 billion, that's with a B, away from the Ukraine unless they got rid of a certain prosecutor who was investigating corruption in the Ukraine, and they were really looking into Burisma, because Burisma, they were paying people off and giving contracts to the best friends, and actually, from what I understand, the chairman of that company, or the CEO, was giving contracts for energy to companies he controlled. Okay, now I may not be an attorney, but in my experience as an adult, as a county chair, that when people come and brag, like Mr. Biden did, there's only two reasons for him to do so. I hope you're listening to me, my dear listener, because the only reason why you would brag would be because you're very proud of what you did, which he seems to be. Son of a beep. They fired him. Of course. Or you're making up a story and lying. So if Mr. Biden is bragging because he did this, he's actually in violation of several international laws, United States statutes, felony bribery, coercion, etc., etc., etc. If he did not do it, then he's just bragging about it because he didn't, and he wants everybody to think he did something great. Well then, folks, he's just a liar. Which brings to the question, what else has he lied about? Is this what the Democratic Party really wants on their ticket? Do you really want to have to choose between a president that's doing something for this country, that's trying to make us safe, making our economy great and everything, or do you want to vote for a liar? I'm sorry, I'm not going to vote for any liars. I'm sure we all will have more months to talk about Mr. Biden and the perception of what's going on in Ukraine. See, in politics, folks, perception is the reality. And if it's perceived there is shall we say, something not a wrongdoing, then that's your reality. You have to deal with it. So on and on the testimony goes. He said this, and I heard this from that, and someone said something, and it was well, here's what it was.
Heard it from a friend who heard it from a friend who heard it from another. You've been messing around.
Yeah, whoa, there we go. One of the high points of was the representatives on the Republican side that said nothing happened. In other words, this so-called coercion quid pro quo didn't happen. To be exact, they are saying there was a quid pro quo. Well, the president of the Ukraine did not investigate CrowdStrike. He did not open an investigation into Hunter Biden. He did not. There was no investigation into Joe Biden, all on the Ukrainian side of this issue. So, was there a quid pro quo? Was there a shakedown? You can't shake down somebody that's not getting shaken down. I mean, Mr. Taylor even stated that President Zelensky from the Ukraine was considering an interview with CNN, which also did not happen. And then after the Democrats got done with their first round of questioning, which was 45 minutes, while the Republicans was going to ask Mr. Taylor, Mr. Kent a question, it was then that Adam Shifty said, now, if that's not in evidence, you don't have to answer that question. Wow, Mr. Ratcliffe, he looked at the chairman and said, point of order, if it's not in evidence, I can object to that line of questioning then. Mr. Shifty just reiterated what he said exactly. If it's not in evidence, they don't have to answer the question. You know, that can really change the whole venue here of this hearing. I mean, I could just now hear the objection, not in evidence kind of statement ringing through the congressional chambers. And of course, Mr. Shifty will shut that person down, whoever it is. So you got to understand something. The rules of the inquiry are not the same as the rules of order in a courtroom or in a regular chamber. You do not have the benefit of saying objection. You do not have the benefit of constitutional rights, Fourth, Fifth, and Sixth. You do not have Miranda rights. The one where it says you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can and will, but you got an attorney and all that. You don't have those rights, and you do not have the right to face your accuser. Otherwise, President Trump his attorney would be sitting in there, but he can't. Very simply, what this is a dog and pony show. The Democrats have already said he's guilty of this, and they're just trying to get their narrative out. That's what the House Resolution 660 says, is Adam Shifty can approve or disapprove of all the witnesses called by the Republicans. This is just about the Democratic narrative. That's all this is about. This is about trying to remove a president for anything whatsoever, whether he did it or did not do it.
You can't handle the truth.
That's right. And Shifty has disapproved of every witness outside the ones that he already had on the list that want to be heard by the Republicans. They submitted 9. 3 were approved because they were already on the list that Adam Shifty wants. The other 6 were denied. Kind of one-sided, you think? Now, because this is the public venue now, the public hearing, he's allowing the Republicans to pretty much ask any question they want to. But when their time runs out, trust me, he starts smacking his gavel and interrupting the Republican or whoever with, the gentleman or gentlewoman's time has expired. Bang, bang, bang. Time has expired. Bang, 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 bang. Time has expired. And he shuts them down. But the media messed up. Because I noticed when the Democrats are on the floor talking and asking questions, there's a little clock right there in front of your witnesses, and it's a countdown clock. It's red. The clock runs out, and you can see the clock. The news cameras accidentally showed it, that the time had expired, and when the clock ran out, he let them ask a couple more questions. Once again, very one-sided here, if we will. The one person that needs to be in front of this committee that has been talked about from the beginning of this entire inquiry yesterday both from Mr. Kent and Mr. Taylor, as well as Adam Shifty, is the one person who has firsthand information on this phone call. Mr. Solomon. Mr. Solomon is the only person that has firsthand information on this call. The only one. Nobody else does. Nobody else that can speak, of course, because, well, let's be realistic. You know, you got staffers who are writing this down, but they're not allowed to speak about the conversation because, you know, that's not what they do. They're just there to take notes. But, no, Mr. Solomon was there. He heard the call. He knows what's going on. He heard the discussion.
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
And Mr. Solomon is the one that has said repeatedly, there's nothing wrong with that phone call. It was just like the phone calls that Obama made. It's just like the phone calls that Bill Clinton made. It's just like the phone calls every other president has ever made, with no pressure on a foreign entity. Because if there was any pressure, any type of coercion, then the president of the Ukraine would have had to produce an investigation or something that the president of the United States asked for. Otherwise, he would not have gotten the $400 million from the United States to buy missiles to defend their country. And here is a big statement that Mr. Taylor said, that as a matter of fact, Obama, when he sent aid to the Ukraine, it was for blankets and MREs. How do you fight a war with a blanket? You know, this is not a high school towel snap war. This is a war with bombs flying and bursting in air. Mr. Trump, the president of the United States, has done more for the Ukraine in helping them to defend their country now than Barack Obama did. We'll just say his whole name, Barack Hussein Obama, did in 8 years. And Mr. Taylor admitted that. One of the Republicans actually even linked the hot mic statement from Barack Obama. That remember that one? I'll have a little more levity. I'll have a little more authority or power after this election. When he was talking to the ambassador of the Soviet Union, what he was talking about was, I have a little bit more to help you get into the Ukraine by just giving them blankets and MREs. That sounds more like what was going on, because it was right after that he sent the aid to the Ukraine in the form of blankets and MREs. What? Yeah, that's what he sent them to help them fight a war.
Mama says stupid as a stupid does.
I know that sounds kind of ridiculous when you're trying to fight a war, but you know, you really can't make this crazy stuff up. It's just ridiculous up there. This was a statement made in open chambers in Congress during an impeachment inquiry. So I can only tell you what they're saying. Okay, so the first two key witnesses in the inquiry knew absolutely nothing about a phone call. Neither of them knew anything about it until they were told, second or third hand, probably while everybody was sitting around the coffee pot getting ready for their day at work. In the military, we call that scuttlebutt, or unsubstantiated rumor, being a highly decorated soldier, Mr. Taylor, and the lifelong bureaucrat, Mr. Kent. You both should know rumor control is not reliable. So I finally had to get up from the couch, walk outside, and get the garden hose, and hose off my freshly polished boots because it was starting to get a little deep, shall we say. I do hope that anyone and everyone that is watching this silly soap opera play out in Congress realizes that this is nothing more than a continuation of the impeachment attempt on a duly elected president of the United States. Yes, folks, that's all this is. They have been trying to get him out since the day after he was elected. Folks, the circus is still in town. Yeah, the circus is still in town. And guess what? The clowns are running the big top. You know, we have to get through this. We all do get to have the last laugh in this situation because, folks, you know, November 3rd of 2020 is when we all need to go to that little booth, pick up that piece of paper, commonly called the ballot, fill in the little box that says, get rid of the liars and misinformation feeding politicians in Congress. commonly called the Democrats. And let's get somebody in there that'll do the job to keep this country functioning, because they have done absolutely nothing at all for the benefit of this country. We have much bigger things to take care of here besides their undying hatred for Donald J. Trump. Yes, they're still crying about the 2016 elections. They're still upset. They're still mad. They have this visceral hate for the President of the United States. You know, folks, we need to get our health care costs under control. We need to reduce the cost of prescription drugs, which Congress can do, but they haven't done it. We need to fight the opioid epidemic that's going on, which Congress needs to pass laws and rules to do that. We have a homeless issue. Los Angeles and San Francisco, Orlando, New York, Chicago, everywhere has got a homeless issue. We need to get some real crime bills out there to try to fix the crime waves running rampant all over this country. Yes, we need to secure our southern border, folks. We need to do this. These are things that need to be done. Folks, you might not like this, but it's time for you to wake up. Quit voting in the same people that do the same thing all the time. That's Einstein's theory of insanity, to do the same thing the same way with the same people and expect different results. The do-nothing Democratic Party they've run their course. It's time to get them out of there, folks. They aren't doing their jobs. Totally and truly the definition of insanity. We need to use our power, the power of the people, the power of the citizens of this country. We need to go in that little booth. We need to vote. You need to hear the people. You need to do what's right. And vote these ridiculous people who want to do nothing more than just waste our time, effort, and money on trying to remove a duly elected president. And they will come up with any lie to do it. Folks, when you go to vote, the only thing I can say is just use a little common sense.